To beat Ark, you have one objective: kill the boss. But killing is wrong, and we gotta do better. So I'm gonna beat the game without killing a single living organism, not even the boss. And I'm gonna do it on one of Ark's most dangerous maps, Scorched Earth. On this map, it's kill or be killed, and when I spawned in, well, I didn't have the option of kill, so... But I was able to level up a bit in between these deaths, and eventually I made it down to the valley where I was able to get some water and reflect on the fact that everybody in this realm wants to kill me. So now I'm actually surviving, but for me to beat the game, Greg has to die, but without me or any of my tames actually killing him. And I'm gonna make a pretty bold claim right here, but this is the most insane boss fight that anyone has ever done on Ark. But we can't visit Greg just yet because first we have to collect all 3 artifacts from each cave. And to do that, I need some transportation. I eventually found some horses in the valley, but then a pego came up, spooked the horses, and then taunted me as he ran away. Yeah, I've been on this map for about 5 minutes, and I already almost failed the no killing challenge, but after silencing my intrusive thoughts, I headed back down to the valley, and that exact same pego decided to steal all of the berries that I just collected to tame the horse, and he instantly got tamed. And then another pego stole all my fiber, and due to my moral high ground, I'm not able to kill him to get it back. So now I'm obligated to protect this little degenerate. When the egg was finally calmed down, I spent about 5 minutes taming, but then the pego that stole the fiber put a hit on me, and a thorny dragon that was strapped for cash tried to murder me for pocket change, and the Iquus ran away. Good times. I then tried several more times to tame a horse, but they always just ran away into danger and got murdered. I'm not really sure what I did for horses to choose death over my friendship, but I just decided to head to Greenob and set up a base. I will never hit, shoot, bite, or in any way deal a lethal blow to any living organism throughout this entire run. But there is one thing that I do want to kill, and that would be the Hydra, one of the absolute hardest clan bosses in Raid Shadow Legends. This man has 6 entire heads. For comparison, I only have 1. The head of Suffering, Blight, Torment, Mischief, Decay, and Wrath. These are the 6 different ways I might die. The 2 craziest ones are the head of Suffering, which shares its pain with you, so you might want to debuff that before you one-shot yourself, and the head of Wrath, where if you hit this guy 15 times, he's gonna do a triple power attack, and you're probably gonna die on the spot, so yeah, good luck with that. I haven't gotten the chance to take on the Hydra yet, but this past week, after clearing a bunch of the dungeons and grinding out some PvP arenas, I decided to start my own clan, and we have Harambe as our mascot. So if you're quick enough, you might be able to join my clan Justifies Jungle. And from now until November 10th, there's a Halloween event going on at raidyard.plarium.com. So download the game using the link below, paste your in-game player ID, grab a shovel, and start digging up some graves. And don't worry, there's not any corpses in there or anything, but you will have the chance to dig up some amazing in-game and in real life items ranging from epic and legendary Halloween themed champions to Amazon gift cards totaling a value of $20,000. And if you're an existing player, you can still participate by going to raidyard.plarium.com, and you'll find a special promo code for a free in-game gift. And if you're a new player, you can get this epic champion, the Knight Errant, for completely free if you just use my QR code on screen, or you click the link in the description and download Raid today. And a big thanks to Raid for sponsoring this video. With what I had on me, I was able to set up a bed, but I would need more hide for a refining forge and a smith. So I needed to get some more hide, but then I realized that hide is literally the skin of things that you kill. And not only is that low-key disgusting, but it's also wrong to kill things. So now with hide being completely out of the question, I decided to go on a walk and ponder how I could maybe smelt some metal without killing anything. But as I was on my walk, I encountered a passerby, you know, what I assumed to be a fellow health-conscious citizen just trying to get their steps in. And he inevitably tried to murder me. So anyway, yeah, I ran. You know, as one will do when there's a serial killer on the loose. But anyway, as I was running away from this fellow citizen, this other guy decided to step in and fight him. I guess they had some previous beef or something. And I, a totally innocent bystander, not responsible of killing anyone, would not want the dino's body and, you know, all of that hide to to go to waste, so I harvested it, you know, like a responsible citizen. So since it was clear that the wildlife is not civilized enough to respect my peaceful lifestyle, I would need a way to defend myself, non-lethally, of course. So I crafted some bolas, and apparently they don't work on capros. Nice. But anyways, after setting up my humble abode, I crafted some stuff to tame a Procoptodon because that seemed like my best option to jump over and outrun everything inside the artifact caves. I did need rare flowers to tame them though, and I would need some pelt and hide for the saddle. So I set out the search for a high-level jumpy boy, but instead I tamed another Pego. I named him Accident to let him know that he's unwanted. I also found some pretty great supply drops, but then a sandstorm hit. This storm was crazy. I couldn't see anything, and then I got jumped by a pack of terror banshees, but I managed to lose them in the midst of the storm. And then as I was heading home, I died to an ant. After the storm passed, I placed down this oil collector that I got out of a drop, and I decided to go tame a moth because I did have a saddle and a flyer with the ability to slow down dinos. It's pretty nice. I really struggled to knock this guy out, but after chasing him across the universe, I eventually drugged him and he fell asleep. But then when he woke up, we were friends. And despite a very, very determined terror bird, I can now fly. I know shooting things with tranks is technically damaging them, but it's non-lethal and it's with good intentions, so I think my conscience will allow it. Anyways, I looked for a Procoptodon for over an hour, and eventually I did find this 145, and he got eaten by direwolves. After a bit more searching, I found a 140, and I used my Febreze to poison him, non-lethally of course, so he'd stay still while I trapped him with billboards. And after approximately 21 trank arrows and 14 rare mushrooms, I was ready to take on the artifact cave. I did still need a saddle though, but luckily after waiting around a while, I witnessed the death of some very unfortunate direwolves, but they were able to live on in the form of a Procoptodon saddle. Optimus Prime jumped for joy as we headed to the first cave to get the artifact of the Destroyer. So it seems Optimus Prime may be a bit too large. He's not fat or anything, he's just big boned. I was about to put him on keto and come back in 6 weeks, but we managed to sneak in through this massive security risk in the roof. As we made our way through the entrance of the cave, we were met with a Megalania bouncer, and Optimus Prime was very intimidated. There wasn't really much in here at first, but after making our way into the heart of the cave, there were a ton of mantis and snakes and arthros, but luckily with the Procoptodon, it was actually extremely easy to just jump over and outrun everything. So we grabbed the artifact completely unharmed and headed out of there. Look, I know that I said killing is wrong, but I never said anything about stealing. After making it back to base, I set up some irrigation and crop plots because I'm gonna need some veggie cakes, and you'll see why in a bit, but it's also nice to have some water up here because of that. So after marking the other two artifacts and jumping all the way across the map, I realized that Optimus Prime was still a bit round, so I had to head all the way back to base and put him on a diet for real this time. But to my surprise, I got attacked by a mantis. And as I ran for my life, he accidentally hit this bodybuilder and then got eviscerated in one swing. I can't believe this happened. What a tragedy. But anyways, it seems that I have come upon some polymer, and I have everything I need to make some cryopods. So I headed back to the cave, and there wasn't really anything in there at all, so we just grabbed the artifact and left. The final cave, however, was significantly more difficult. There were arthros, aquatic mantises, bats, and even direwolves everywhere in here. I basically just ran past everything, but it turns out that they actually decided to chase me. So I had to cut away an entire small town and steal the artifact of the crag in the middle of a high-speed chase. And despite the marine mantis branch of the police force, I now had all three artifacts needed to visit Greg. So now it's almost time to tame an army for my peaceful visit with Greg. But to enter the Manticore arena, you also need 2 of each Wyvern talon. So I decided to head to the Wyvern Scar and set up a base nearby, hoping to convince 6 Wyverns to, lend me their talons. But I can't just walk over and ask. These are like the kings of Scorched Earth we're talking about here. So I grinded a ton of resources to set up an embassy where we could peacefully discuss a trade offer. And after about a day's worth of honest work, I headed to the desert outside the Wyvern Scar and I set up a cozy little meeting point. I really hope they like it. Well, it seems the Wyverns don't respect my peaceful lifestyle, but that's okay. Maybe if I lead another powerful figure to the embassy, they'll learn to appreciate an alliance and be more willing to help me. So I kited this barbarian to our meeting point as he eliminated his foes to assert his dominance. But once the Wyvern and the barbarian were together, they both didn't like me. But they loved each other so much, in fact, that when they accidentally hit one another, they were quickly to forgive as they bonded over their hatred for me. But I did have one more idea of someone that might be able to convince the Wyverns to help me out. So there's this really tall guy back by my Green Ob hometown, and he's so large, people call him the Titan. He is like really slow though, so I decided to try to get a Wyvern to chase me all the way across the map. Okay, well, clearly that didn't work. So I persuaded the Titan to follow me to the other end of the realm, and this literally took 2 hours. But when we arrived, I immediately got assaulted by a Wyvern. Luckily, I was able to cryo Febreze so he didn't die. I did manage to get my stuff back, but unfortunately the Titan wasn't able to reason with the Wyvern. And he was also able to keep his cool even when the Wyvern attacked him. So all remained peaceful, except for everything wanted to kill me, but I still needed Wyvern talons. So I decided to take a break from that, and I was gonna go ahead and tame some boss fight dinos for my visit with Greg. When I was first considering doing this challenge, I originally thought to just use Rexes and then put them all on neutral and unclaim them inside of the arena because, hey, those aren't my tames anymore. I'm not responsible if they kill stuff. But honestly, that feels a bit cheap to me, and I would still be directly contributing to the harm of Greg without him having any method of preventing it from happening. So I wanted to find a better method where I'm literally not harming him in any intentional way. And eventually, I came up with an idea. And eventually, I found one. A 145 Kentro. These guys behave like spike walls, so when they take damage, they reflect a small amount back on the creature that's dealing the damage, depending on its drag weight. It is a very small amount of damage, however, even to something as large as a boss, so I'm not 100% sure if this will even work, but we are gonna find out. Anyways, after he was knocked, I realized that mayo berries would take way too long, so I hopped back to base to grab some veggies, and despite this very, very determined Sabertooth, I had my first Kentro. I still needed another Kentro to start breeding though, so I knocked out this other high level nearby, but the poor guy got killed by hyenas and I wasn't able to do anything about it. After making some more Trankos though, I looked around for a while and I really couldn't find anything. So I just tamed this level 25 just in case. Then after an absolutely brutal sandstorm, I managed to find another 145 that went by the name. I made it back to base with free hugs, Vlad the Impaler, and this other guy that's not good enough to deserve a name. And now I decided to start breeding. Vlad the Impaler has the best health, so we need to get one more with a good health stat first. Anyways, I spent the next couple hours raising 20 high health Kentros with 100% imprint to visit and in no way harm Greg. So now that I had the Kentros raised, I decided to see how the bad health ones would get along with the Wyverns, so I brought them to the embassy to meet with a fire Wyvern. This Wyvern was not having it, and he murdered all 3 of my Kentros in cold blood. So I grabbed 7 of the actual high-level Kentros, hoping that their high level of prestige would be more impressive to the Wyvern. But this Wyvern was ruthless. He attacked on sight, and as my Kentros peacefully existed, just sitting there not doing anything harmful, the Wyvern kept biting and biting at their spikes until his very own greed and hatred would lead him to his demise. And since he wasn't using them anymore, I decided to help myself to one of his fire talons. So now I only need 5 more. I wanted to see if maybe the other types of Wyverns would be a bit more helpful, but just in case that it went like it did last time, they need to level up a bit and have some higher health. And since I can't kill baby Kentros like most savages would do to level up, I decided to craft an industrial grinder. If you grind stone or wood in these, the shared XP can fully max out your tames in a matter of minutes. But what I didn't account for, however, is that you need a tribe mate to be riding the tame for it to get the shared XP. I'm a bit slow sometimes, and now I have 1 less hour in my life that I will never get back. Anyways, just from the amount of time they've been sitting here all day, they are all leveled to about 15k health, so I took them all to our meeting place so the Wyverns could see our strength and unity, and hopefully that will welcome their friendship. This time there was a poison Wyvern waiting for our negotiation, but we must have scheduled it at a bad time because he decided he wanted Kentro for breakfast, and he was so hungry that he wouldn't stop biting no matter how much damage he was taking. After witnessing him cause his own downfall, I figured he wouldn't mind if I borrowed one of his poison talons. This happened again during our next attempt at a trade offer, and each time it takes like 5 to 10 minutes, so that kind of shows how little damage the Kentro spikes actually do. But now we have 3 out of 6 talons, and they're getting pretty good levels from this as well. I went ahead and renamed all the Kentros after members of my Discord server. And then we tried several more times to find a reasonable Wyvern, but well, they all woke up this morning and chose violence. So I actually did this for about 3 hours, and I made sure each Kentro got all the levels at least once, so now they all have about 45 levels and 50,000 health, and they all look like they're about to bleed out. But anyways, it was now time to take them to Green-Ob and confront Greg. But first I would need a tame to ride in the arena because you can't ride Kentros, that would be painful. So I went to tame a Yudi because their roar bonus makes tames take reduced damage. And while I was setting up the trap, I got suplexed into another dimension. But luckily, I was able to get Febreze out of there and kite the Yudi away safely. I set up the trap and I took advantage of the Yudi's aggressive lifestyle to get him stuck, and then I non-lethally tranquilized him. Nice. Nursed him back to health, named him Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Call of Duty Modern for short, and now we're best friends. But I still had to wait on all the Kentros to heal up, so I made some stimulants to counteract Greg's knockout mechanics, and then I spent the rest of the night in the kitchen making veggie cakes for all of my little Kentros. And I was able to make 1 or 2 cakes for each of them, which isn't a ton, but it's just a little something to show my appreciation. As we entered the portal, I made sure to remind my Kentros that we were here for peace, and there would be no biting allowed. But none of us could have been prepared for what was about to happen. There's a timer on the top left-hand corner of the screen because I want to put into perspective exactly how long this took. So at the beginning here, there wasn't too much strategy involved. We just wanted to make sure that we made our voice heard to Greg, that we want changes in this kingdom. So I made sure to keep the Yudi away from everything so he wouldn't get knocked out by Greg, and I let the Kentros peacefully protest as I whistled them all close together so when Greg hit, he was able to hit them all at the same time. So everything was going really smooth for a while, but I actually forgot about the phases of the Manticore. Once we got him down 10% health, the death worms began to spawn. And just like that, the entire plan was derailed. The Yudi was now unconscious. I underestimated how long this fight was gonna take, and I didn't bring anywhere near enough stimulants. And since you can't ride Kentros, I was now on foot in a boss fight. I was scared and I didn't know what to do. But eventually, I realized my only hope was to wake up the Yudi, so I started relentlessly grinding stem berries. To make matters worse, a lot of the Kentros were getting knocked out, and I was getting heat stroke, meaning I was about to lose my ability to sprint. And so now I was unconscious in the boss arena. But by some miracle, I guess his targeting mechanics don't want to target unconscious entities, so I was able to survive long enough to wake up. But it turns out that while I was knocked out, my heat stroke level actually dropped. This means that I'm now able to sprint again and I actually have a chance. So I took a big risk and I ate a bunch of narco berries to knock myself out again to get my heat stroke as low as I could get it. And at exactly 1 hour into the fight, I started grinding some more stem berries to finally wake up the Yudi. Houston, we have a problem. So when the Manticore hits 20% health, rock elementals will spawn in. I got really lucky and the Yudi finally woke up right when this happened, so I actually did have a Taming to ride, but most of the Kentros were still unconscious. I tried my best to kite the rock elementals away, but there's just way too many of them, and there's no way I can actually do that. The two Kentros that were kind of separated from the rest of the group did actually wake up though, so I was able to kite them over to the other side, and the Manticore was able to keep getting some hits in while the rock elementals were distracted. But it didn't take long for the unconscious Kentros to start dying out, and the rock elementals started to head over. I wasn't able to get both of my Kentros up there, but I was able to get one onto this ledge, and I blocked off the rock elementals. So now they were out of the fight, but I did only have one Kentro left to damage the Manticore. Greg damaged himself all the way down to 10% health over the span of 1.5 hours. But it wasn't good enough. But what would happen if I brought 6,000 stimulants instead of 800? And after learning a very valuable lesson about greed from Greg's very unfortunate passing, we just beat Scorched Earth without being responsible for killing any living organism, except for plants. I've actually been holding back on some of my YouTube ideas because I was waiting on ARK Survival Ascended to drop, and it's here. So if you want to support me, hit that subscribe button, and I actually did launch some channel memberships, so check that out if you're interested. And don't forget to download Raid Shadow Legends using my link in the description below. And if you want to see me beat the entire game of Ark without ever harvesting a single resource, click the video right here.